There. Today's not bad. I'm good. No, today's hasn't been too bad today.
Could have gotten busy.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 7th, 2024 Standard Specification and Detail Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, just a reminder, please turn your microphone on when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when speaking. If you can have your camera on, that's even better. But definitely state your name, especially when motioning. So the MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with that. Move on to agenda item number 2, the call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under the MAG jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided to the call of the audience unless the chair requests an exception to the limit. I have not received any requests to speak for the call of the audience. MAG also provides an opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting are shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Gordon, have we received any?
We did not receive any public comments via online, the website.
Thank you, Gordon. Move into agenda item number 3, approval of the July 3rd meeting minutes. If any members of the committee have any questions or corrections to note, now is the time to bring them up if you haven't already. Take a moment to refresh your memory as Gordon scrolls through the meeting minutes from last month. All right, I'm not hearing any corrections to the meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion. Please state your name when motioning.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jose Rodriguez. Motion to approve.
Thank you. I'll take a second motion for the meeting minutes.
So this is Roy. I'll second.
Thank you, Roy. We'll move into a roll call vote.
All right, let's start beginning with ADOT. ADOT. Avondale.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Michael Den Bleicher with ADOT.
Do you vote yes or no on the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Buckeye.
Yes.
Chandler.
This is Rachel Marks with the City of Chandler. Yes.
Thank you. El Mirage.
Yes.
Lawrence. Gilbert.
Yes.
Glendale.
Yes.
Goodyear. Maricopa County.
Yes.
Mesa.
Yes.
Peoria. Phoenix.
Yes.
Scottsdale.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yes.
Tempe. Youngtown? Whoops. Yes. I read your mind. Is there anybody who I called who did not respond? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, we're going to move into items proposed to be heard for cases under consideration. Agenda item number 4, cases carried forward from 2023. Case 23-09 is a proposed new section for 632 water and sanitary sewer tracer wire installation and the related details. This case is sponsored by Warren. Rachel, are you going to be covering for Warren today on this case?
Yes, I'm your designated Warren today.
All
He's
right.
on vacation.
Very much. You want to give us an update on the case?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last time this case was brought before the committee in July 2024, it was determined that we would revise section 632.1 and add a new paragraph regarding the purpose of the tracer wire and referencing ARS to allow for other acceptable methods for locating underground facilities, marker balls, the little marker flags that are above ground, et cetera. Section 632.3.1 general was also revised, adding a bullet to account for the installation where the tracer wire doesn't follow a main line or service lateral, and instructions for how to do that. Also added that PVC conduits are required to be shown on the plan sheets and the as-built. And then detail 399-4, the tracer wire for a fire hydrant, was also revised, adding language for alternate grade level and in-ground access boxes.
I think Gordon's trying to catch up.
Oh, sorry. No, it was a long one.
Okay. So this particular case is up for action, possible action today. Before that, we'll move it into open discussion. I don't have any additional comments on this case. I've already got with Warren on that before he left. Does anybody else have any discussion they want to bring up on this particular case?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. This is Josh Ford from the city of Buckeye.
Yes, Josh?
I was just going to share, I know last meeting there was, I think, some discussion about the fire hydrant detail and whether putting a box on the hydrant would be a concern to fire departments. I believe that's what led to kind of an alternative location. There was a request to coordinate with our local fire departments, and I did do that. I sent that over to our fire marshal here at the city of Buckeye and asked for his input, and just wanted to share that at least from his and fire department at Buckeye's input, there was no concerns with either option presented here for the termination access box.
So I'm hearing there was no concerns. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Yeah, I ran it through my fire marshal's office as well prior to the last month's meeting, and that's the response I got was preferably attach it to the backside of the hydrant so it doesn't interfere with taking the caps off the hydrant. But other than that, they had no concern with it. Anybody else check with their fire marshal's office? Anybody else have any feedback on it?
You can see on the detail, the alternate access is shown now.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Gordon. I believe this case is ready for action. There's a lot of work that went into this case, or a lot of comments early on. Lately, the last 2 or 3 meetings, the comments have really tapered off drastically. And I believe really the only comment that I recall that could have been a red flag was about the fire marshal's office, but I think we settled that. Does anybody feel can we get a motion on this to move forward to a vote on it?
I was just gonna bring up a note. This is Jose with the City of Phoenix, just for completeness, not necessarily
Okay.
it's gonna make any difference. But on the elevation view, just to show that the wires are going into the optional box.
Would that confuse it, making it look like you're using both, or?
I just figure for the purpose of completeness, just to show it in the detail as well on the plan view, just to show the optional location 2 feet away.
Okay,
Just in abundance of caution.
Jim, has that been discussed at the working group at all, Mr. Badowich? Do you recall if it was brought up in the working group?
No, it wouldn't, I just noticed it, but it's just a minor, note. It's just catting,
Okay,
because it's just really showing the intent of the alternate box. But you bring up a point, I don't know if it'll confuse people.
I'm concerned that it'll look like there's both
Yeah.
locations need wire attached to them. Can we get any other feedback from the committee on whether we should show the tracer wire connection and showing the tracer wire come down as a dotted line similar to the left of the alternate? And have both those, do you think it would cause confusion, or do people approve the detail or accept the detail the way it's printed?
I think if we didn't have the alternate access box, like that text shown there, we would probably need it. But given that the description is right there for them, I think adding the wires too might be a little bit confusing.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. No, it's
Fair enough.
a great observation, Jose. Does any other committee members have any feedback or comments on this case?
I think it looks pretty good. I agree. I don't think lines on that alternative would help clarify anything. I think it looks pretty good.
Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Well, hearing no other additional comments or discussion, I'll entertain a motion for action to go ahead and vote on this thing and get it through. Gordon, can the case sponsor a motion?
Yes, they can.
Rachel, do you feel like it's ready to go through?
I do.
Would you be willing to motion for vote?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Rachel. Can I get a second motion to put this into vote?
This is Josh Ford with the City of Buckeye. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. With the two motions, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Okay. Start with ADOT again.
Yes.
Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria, Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Youngtown.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation in this. We made the right decision getting this through. It's been a long go. There's a lot of effort into it, and it appears to be right there. So thanks again for everybody's participation. I would have motioned myself, but as a chair, I couldn't motion on. All right, let's move into new cases for 2024 miscellaneous corrections. I don't believe we have any new miscellaneous corrections for this month that we did not have last month. We'll open the miscellaneous corrections up to discussion if anybody wants to discuss anything in particular.
I think there was some minor updates to detail 441.
For the sewer clean out. Should have been the steel hoop and the medium broom finish, correct? Okay,
And the score marks, the score marks in the type A on the clean out also, because they weren't shown.
I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't get that. Can you speak directly? in the phone?
The score marks in the concrete after you pour it, they weren't shown to do that on the clean out when you got to do it on everything else.
The radial score marks. Did I add that in there, Gordon?
I think it's, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just as a
medium.
note at the top here.
Okay.
I think the only change from the last time was just spelling out vitrified.
Yeah, I thought we captured that at the last meeting. Maybe I'm incorrect, but yeah, it was vitrified clay pipe versus VIT. All right, was there any other updates besides 441? I don't believe so. Okay, we'll go ahead and move into agenda item number 6. This case 24-05, revision of 630, section 631, add new detail 341.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Gene. I just wanted to clarify that the case 2401, normally we do vote on that the last meeting of the year. So I'm assuming that you do want to place this on the agenda for action.
Thank you, Gordon. Yes, let's definitely put that up for action because we're anticipating next month will be our last meeting. There is an opportunity to have one in October, but if we can get everything settled by next month, there will be no need for October. So yes, thank you, Gordon. If you can move that up for action, possible action at the next meeting. The year is going fast. All right, back to agenda item number 6. Sorry about that, guys. So previously at the July 3rd meeting, Jeffrey Butters explained the differences in the dissimilar metals, how they negatively impact the ductile iron pipe, and they accelerate corrosion related failures when it's not applied and wrapped properly. So this one here, the only real update that I have is our drafter got it into CAD for me. I shared that with the group, shared it with Gordon. That should have been published. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity, or not published, but updated on the website. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to review it. This one, I think it's there. I haven't received really any feedback. I did receive feedback early on, but the last meeting, I didn't receive anything except for the direction of the tape to make it match so it didn't look like this pipe was spun around the arch in the tape, and that was really it. This one I'm going to open up. That's basically the update on it. I'm going to open it up to discussion to the committee for any feedback on it.
Chair,
Sir.
Ryan Nichols with City Mesa. I have some comments from my Water Resources Department. This is definitely not my area of expertise, so this is more of a comment / question, and hopefully you'll have enough understanding to answer it for me.
I hope so. I put it together.
So I think that, as I understand it, this has to do with new services in general, and this comment is maybe not exactly associated with that, but related. So I'm just going to read the comment as I received it here. And it's that the city of Mesa has seen failures on tapping sleeves that the corporation stop that is used for pressure testing or disinfection. This port is allowed in the mag detail to be installed in the field, but the failures at these corporation stops, which are blowing out the bolts and threads. The remainder of the tapping sleeve itself appears to be in good working condition and unaffected, but this is requiring the city to request the use of cut-in tees in place of tapping sleeves. And following up with that, test ports should be installed by the factory, and normally they are. So not sure why in some cases these are being installed in the field. It's our recommendation that field installed test ports or taps on tapping sleeves should not be allowed or should be prohibited.
Well, thank you for that. I can tell you right now that this is not designed for a tapping sleeve. This is designed for a tapping saddle or a coupling, which is typically a double banded bronze, at least here in Maricopa County. That's what I've seen mostly, and that's what Glendale uses and requires. Now, there are other metals and materials that can be used, like stainless steel. The tapping sleeve is more of a larger apparatus that you do not want to tape prior to putting the sleeve on. Usually it's a size on size. If you're doing an 8 on an 8, you'd use an 8 on a 6 for a fire line. You want to add a fire line, you'd use more of a tapping sleeve, a big stainless steel apparatus with bolts on the back of it, or a clamshell, a cast iron type. This is more specific to service laterals that are smaller, up from 3/4 to 2 inch.
So I guess the question is, and maybe the point is still valid here. It's maybe not applicable to this case. Is this something that should be discussed as a separate case, a different detail somewhere else is a different thing in the next year?
I think we should explore that. Yeah, because that's a good point. I know the service port that they're referencing, it's on the top. That's where you fill it up with water and you pressure test that tapping sleeve. It's a very large sleeve. You pressure test it prior to tapping.
Okay. I'll recommend that they attend a working group meeting and bring this up as a topic for discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, are you still online?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that usually those test ports on tapping sleeves are manufactured by the tapping sleeve company. So if they get plugged in properly, that might be what they're talking about there. On the other avenue, I think what the line of thought is correct, and what we don't have a spec on is dropping in line stop valves on either side of where we're going to do a tie-in, so we don't have to shut the water down. And then they get opened up and abandoned. They don't get left there for use. But that's the hard thing about cutting in tees. When you're doing a 12-inch main that's feeding a couple thousand people, it's pretty hard to shut it down. Anyway, that's my comment.
No, I knew you'd have some good positive, well, not positive, but informational feedback on that. Depending on the day, it could be positive, right?
Right.
So no, that's a good point. When we cut in, and it'll have to be a different case, but when we cut in a tee, we generally, if it feeds a neighborhood in particular, we generally put a valve on each side of the tee and then the valve coming off the tee so that we can isolate. But we don't abandon anything in place like that. But as far as the pressure testing port, you're correct that after you're done, you plug it, but that's usually cast into the whole apparatus at the manufacturer's level. So
Right.
I'm really not sure. I think that's a different. Well, I know that's related to it's going to be a different case.
I just had one more quick comment, and that is, I did get some feedback from saddle manufacturers, 3 different saddle manufacturers that did say that putting that over the poly wrap was not an issue with them. But they also mentioned that it was a real huge issue with tapping sleeves. So I think we got this right. So that's my comment.
Paul, that's
The tapping sleeves have their own gasket, if I recall. I mean, it's not metal on metal with the tapping sleeve. They have I think it's a neoprene or something.
Exactly.
You know, that goes.
it's got a diagonal checker cut design into it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you don't
want to mess with that OD.
on metal. So
Right.
the other thing I can point out, as I experienced this on that test port you're talking about, is you got to make sure that it comes with a plug, and you got to make sure that same plug goes back. We've had issues where the contractors use a different material, like, I don't know, maybe galvanized or brass or something, if it's stainless, and that causes a problem. We've had leaks, we dug it up and found that there was a corrosion around the tap, that tapping port, because the plug that was screwed back in was not the same material. So it's very important that the contractor and the inspector make sure that that same exact plug that it comes with, because it's the same material, gets used.
Well, and that's a great point. Just for clarity for the group, for the committee, what Jim is speaking about, it's not related to this particular case. It's going to have to be a separate case for an actual tapping sleeve. This one doesn't require a pressure test prior to tapping. It's all incorporated for the pressure test of the whole system. But with this one, if you do abandon a tap with a double banded bronze saddle, Jim, you are correct. You would want to use a brass plug. You'd want to pull that corp out and put a brass plug in. So if anybody ever dug next to the pipe, they don't hit the corp and knock it off. That said, I think, Ryan, maybe we work with the working group, or your team works with the working group, and let's look at that case. I'm going to try to join more of those working group meetings also.
Thank you for the clarification. I didn't mean to open up a different topic than what we're talking about in this case. I didn't realize it was a unrelated comment. I would have already told them as much. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or discussion related to this case? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to put it on the agenda for possible action at the next meeting, at the September meeting. Gordon, can you please put that on the agenda for action?
Yes, I will.
If some comments do come up, please reach out and I'll help answer those questions. If you have questions or if you have comments, if I have to make any modifications, I can make those last minute. I don't foresee any, but let me know. All right, moving on to agenda item number 7. This is case 24-06, update detail 345-2, 4-inch and 6-inch water meters with on-site fire hydrant. So this is a water meter to meter the fire line. This one here. I did have a couple updates on it. What you see in red were the updates from the last meeting. Basically, up in the top language, you can see where I put the meter type and manufacturer, and then also per the manufacturers with a apostrophe S. And then if you look at note 8, the 2-inch water meter type and manufacturers at the discretion of the owner or agency. Those notes were made, and then also at the very bottom, manufacturer apostrophe S for that as well. And same thing, water meter type and manufacturer. So this one, Gordon was kind enough to help me out into getting it into a clean version. Did we post that? Oh, there it is. Thank you, Gordon. So this one here, I'll open up for discussion to the committee.
Sure.
Sir.
Just a minor comment. I think we intended to say manufacturer, and it looks like it just says manufacturer.
Where is this at?
Each of those locations where we had the proposed note change. So for example, on note 5, water meter type and manufacturer.
Oh, yes. Yep. Good catch.
So yeah, in each of those notes, it seems that is how it got put in.
And actually the note 8 as well, correct?
Correct. 8 and 12.
Those are minor changes. Those can be made very simply. Number 9, a space between on the clean version. Yep, there it is. Thank you very much. That's why it's nice having multiple people, the committee, look at these things. We really need the participation from the committee to catch these things. Any other comments on this case?
This is Josh with the city of Buckeye. Can you clarify where the on-site fire hydrant is in relation to this meter layout detail?
Downstream. That's about the best I could tell you. The on-site fire hydrant would be downstream. I mean, we're looking at just the detail itself, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's not going to be attached to the vault. Does that answer your question? I guess I'm not really sure what your question is, maybe. Josh?
Yeah, okay, yeah, so this is in, the purpose of this would be to actually meter the water usage that a fire hydrant on site would utilize or a fire line on site would utilize.
So can you say it again, please?
Just clarifying the intent and purpose of the detail. I don't have as much history on it as I'm sure most here do. Is the intent here to actually meter the use of an on-site fire line with fire hydrants?
So Glendale does not meter on-site fire hydrants. We backflow them. We do have a backflow on them. This was an existing detail that really the motivation, hopefully this gives you some clarity. The motivation here was for me to try to remove the manufacturer specific names that were called out. That was really the only motivation for this whole thing. It did kind of grow a little larger than what I anticipated. But we've sorted through that throughout the meeting. But you'll notice on the original detail, it called out Rockwell, called out Hershey, called out Neptune, which not all, but some of those have been bought out by other businesses and are no longer in business. That's why I proposed the case to change just to more of a general at the agency's discretion. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying this is just more cleanup on some references rather than reinventing the wheel, or rather than actually an overhaul of the detail itself.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I was just mentioning on item number 3, this is Jose with the City of Phoenix. Should we just make a note instead of calling out for the mechanical joint coupler for ACP, just for different pipe materials? I'm not sure that ACP is used.
Yeah, just maybe call out, you're right, unless you're tying on to existing infrastructure that's 20 plus years old.
Mechanical joint that's needed for different pipe material.
Yeah, adapter flange to mechanical joint for, let me look at that.
Yeah.
You have any
This-
suggestions?
I'm only have experience on this, limited experience with this with Phoenix, right? So that will be a DIP main, but I'm not sure whether municipalities.
Right. Well, you want to be able to adapt to DIP,
And-
to C900, whatever, whoever's using what.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you will use in C900.
What if you just had to mechanical joint as needed or something like that, where it's
Yeah, as needed for different pipe material. Because if it's DIP all the way through, you're not gonna need anything, but.
Okay. All right. Those are pretty minor changes. Any other committee members have comments on this case? I'm gonna move this case for possible action at the next meeting. I'll make those changes. I appreciate everybody's input on that. Gordon, can you put it up for possible action for next month? Okay. Unless the committee feels we can vote on it and I can make those changes before it's published, I'd be willing to entertain a motion if we think we can get it through just the way it is. what we can do is these minor changes that were noted at this meeting, I could make those changes for the clean version and we can publish it. Is anybody willing to motion the way it is or with the proposed changes? Did I not sound convincing enough?
I don't know. It doesn't appear the case.
Okay. All right, I'll make those cleanups to the clean version, get that done, and then we'll look at doing action next month. All right, we're gonna move into agenda item number 8, case 24-08, revised section 321 and 326 paving temperatures. This one's brought to us by the Asphalt Working Group. Greg's here to give us information on any updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No updates to this case. The last revision here was June 13th, and that was making the changes that we had available at the last main committee meeting. We received no other comments at the working group, and to my knowledge, Gordon has not received any comments either. I know this case was up for schedule for possible action today, so.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think it's ready to go, but I'm going to open it up to the committee for discussion. Anybody have any comments or questions on this particular case? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to vote.
Chair, I'd motion to approve case 24-08, revised sections 321 and 326 paving temperatures.
Thank you, Ryan. Can I get a second motion on this case?
This is the town of Youngtown. I'll make that second.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, with the two motions, we'll move into a roll call vote. Okay. Case 408. Yep, that's correct. Peanut,
Yes.
Avondale. Avondale. Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence. Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale. Yes. Goodyear. Maricopa County.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Peoria.
Yes.
Phoenix.
Yes.
Scottsdale.
Yes.
Yes.
And Youngtown.
Yes.
Thank you. The case passes unanimously. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you.
I can barely hear you. Avondale votes yes on that.
Peoria votes yes.
I think your mic is off, Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. My mic was off. Probably hearing me through Gene's mic. But is there anybody that I missed? Okay, I think we're good then.
We have Tempe.
I don't believe Tempe's present today.
We have we have a yes on there for the previous case, 24-07.
That was last month, I think.
Okay. All right, thank you, committee members. All right, we're going to move into agenda item number 9. This is case 24-09, revised section 710, asphalt concrete to allow the liquid anti-strip. This one is also brought to us by the Asphalt Working Group. Greg, are you going to give updates on this one?
I am, Mr. Chairman. So last month, there's only been one change that was revised after last month. Last month, you saw something very, very similar to this one. Gordon, if you go to page 710 30. Yep, that one right there. So last month we had, everything was the same except we had X's where the Marshall and gyratory PSIs still were doing some investigative work, and then trying to make this, last month we talked about the bottom paragraph that used to exist below this table was pretty, how would you, when it got to the real world, like how would you administer this, having 3 years of historical data, if there was a new pit, and how there was a lot of potential confusion on how that could be looked at. So the thought was to do this instead, was to take and increase both the Marshall and the gyratories from their current 175 pound respectively in MAG currently, and raise both those minimum values by 25% is where that number came to. So now the minimum, if you're going to use a liquid anistrip, either by itself or a combination thereof, that it has to meet that 25% higher bottom threshold, just to give that a little bit of extra assurance, if you will, on that. We had one other comment too, as far as the link. Gordon, I cannot get that link to paste in there as a link for some reason, but if I type it all in, I can get that to come up every time. So I'm not exactly sure what.
I'll make it a hyperlink.
Yeah, I couldn't seem to get it to do it, but yeah, it comes up. Yeah, somebody made the comment that they couldn't, but I couldn't get it to link every time I did it. But anyway, neither here nor there. That's where this case is. There's two notes then below table 710-3. If you go down there a bit. So now there's 3 asterisks there behind number 6. And then if you go down to the notes below it, it's just saying mixtures using liquid anistrip additives shall conform to the section, the little note saying, hey, you got to have it, you have a higher minimum threshold than what's listed in the tables. Other than that, I'd open it to the floor for any comments, questions.
Yeah, we'll
concerns.
open it up. We'll open it up for discussion from the committee. Thank you, Greg, for those updates.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Jose with the City of Phoenix. Just a question. Was the data ever gathered and distributed to find out exactly what the historic dry strength has been on the various mix designs from different suppliers?
So pretty much all of them. Historically, we've always kept it at the 100, and historically, it appears that most of them are considerably higher.
Okay.
The same thought would go probably into this, that trend would probably still continue even with this, especially if you use a combination thereof.
Mhm.
Straight up by themselves, don't know. There's so many new technologies out there to vet every single one to know exactly that one might drop all the way out. But there's also another group that says that maybe these higher tensile strengths is when you get up into the 180s, 200s, that maybe some of that is leading to some of the cracking we're seeing. So I don't know kind of which school there.
So the 25% was kind of like a happy medium, or how does that?
So the 25%, the increase on that, the thought process behind it was that we were looking for, if we took there was a bunch of people that were like, okay, MAG's still been around and these minimum thresholds have been in there for years, that instead of trying to administer through the existing ones, and if you average, say, 150, and the thought was, okay, well, we'll drop that one by 25%. So the thought was, well, instead of keeping that one at a 25% less, let's just raise the bottom level.
No, I understand the idea, but how do we reach to just increasing it by 25%? That's the one thing. Did we just pick a number and?
It was that same, because we had the 25% decrease willing, that if that was the case, to give 25% more strength, if you will, it was to increase both the bottom numbers by 25%. That's really where.
So you were wondering where the value came from,
Where the increase was coming from?
what the actual value, why that value.
And that's why.
So just because we're expecting a percent reduction if you're fully using an anti-strip by 20%.
Correct.
Which is bringing up.
Correct. Greg, I got a question for you. So the section, you mentioned the 3 asterisks note that references back to section 710.2.5. Maybe I'm a cynic here, but people don't read the notes. They just see the 100 in the table and they won't read the note because they'll see what they want to see. Would it clarify anything? And I'm asking the question. I'm not saying that this is what I think needs to happen, but would it clarify it if in the table it said 100/125? Because then if you ask the question, well, which is it, 100, 125, you're more likely to see the note and go back and refer to the section where it clarifies that.
I would argue that the same would be considered for somebody that may already have a current Marshall mix, and somebody may want to say, well, I'm not using liquid antistrip. Then now somebody's saying, well, the table says 125, I could choose. And the only reason we kept the asterisk, Ryan, was to keep it consistent with the other two notes that already existed within the tables.
Like the double asterisks.
Yeah, there's a single and a double asterisk in the same table, so we just kept it consistent for the same reason.
Okay, fair enough.
That was a good question, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree that it's all technically there, and if I had to go to bat to defend it, I definitely could.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I see Greg's point, though. If we do add that additional number next to it with a /, it can be interpreted as either or.
That would be more of a concern there.
That's a happy medium, so I have to flip the page. You could add the 100 PSI to the note on the 3 asterisks. Right. So,
I'm sorry, I'm not
so under table 710-3,
yep,
you can say mixtures using liquid antistrip and shall conform or shall require 125 PSI drying strength as listed in 710.2. If you don't want to flip the page, I think the language is there, and
You're just
I don't
trying
think
to
we approve-
reference them back.
yeah, we don't approve mixed signs out of intent to go through this level of effort, but I can live with the wording as is.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, there's just a question.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm not insistent by any means.
No problem. I was just, that was the reason why it was done, was because since we already had 2 other ones that seemed to follow the same consistency of what we already had, is the reason why.
Also, for the online version, I typically add hyperlinks when it references sections. So you can just click on that link and take you back to the previous page.
That would satisfy your
Perfect
comment.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the committee on this case? So hearing no other comments for case 24-09, we'll move this for possible action at September meeting. Or wait, this one is not up for possible action yet. So we're going to move this to possible action for September.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd suggest everybody get their eyes on it, review it, make sure that they're good with it before September's meeting. All right, moving on to agenda item number 10. This is case 24-10, revised section 602, trenchless or open cut installation of casing. Do we have Arvid on the line?
Yes, sir.
Arvid, you want to go ahead and give us an update on this one?
Yes, sir. We have in front of you an updated MAG 602 with the offering of additional casing options for the municipalities going forward. Over the last 10 years, we've been installing CCE FRPM, which is basically Hobus, as well as mechanical joint steel casing, a Permalock or a Trilock type material. The big reason for putting these into the spec and making them an option as a casing material is because primarily to do with the railroads. As we've been, and many of you on the call have interacted with the railroads over the last 5 years with the introduction of Rail Pros and the new requirements of Zone A and crossing and working around the clock. We're just limited on people. We no longer have crew and staff availability. We're all suffering through lack of people. So we need materials that allow us to get the casing installed through Zone A, which is typically a 50 to 100 foot crossing in a timely fashion so that we're not burning out people and running into safety concerns. That's what these materials give us the ability to do. Plus, they give you a casing that is just as good as a steel casing. So the CC FRPM material, we install that with the TBM 48-inch and larger. We can hand tunnel it, of course, 42-inch, but it's used oftentimes in the SRP APS world, where we put it through the ground and then put a duct bank through the casing and then fill it with grout because they want a thermal grout. But this is a great product for many of you to start considering to use for the crossings that you have on your typical crossings, where we can use the TBM because it goes together. It's a bell and spigot gasket with a rubber. It's watertight. And then you can seal off the ends like you do a regular steel casing. It's going to last forever. And then it just gives us the ability to go in a more efficient manner with the installation. The same is true with the mechanical joint steel casing, the Permalock or the Tri-Lock material. It's a snap together joint. And there again, it allows us to put it together in a timely fashion without having to spend time welding the joint. So that's what this case is about. It's simply adding in some different material options for the casing as the industry is growing, and we've got more options to give you.
Thank you for that insight, Arvid. This one, Glendale definitely is on board with. Our principal engineer had commented that, as long as it's leak-free, which you had already mentioned, it's high strength, which you've already mentioned, it's comparable to ductile. The other advantage is it is lightweight and it should provide a long service life, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking, when we talk about the mechanical joint steel casing, the only difference between mechanical joint and welded steel casing, welded joint, of course, is welding versus no welding. We installed just shy of 1,000 feet of mechanical joint steel pipe underneath the K-Buttes Dam a couple of years ago for the flood control. They're using it as a secondary outfall. So if the Corps of Engineers and the flood control are approving it, and it is approved by AREMA, then of course it's something that I think is very suitable for any of your projects that you guys need. The HOBUS or the CCFRPM pipe is a great product. It goes underneath railroad tracks. It's approved by AREMA, and it gives you the options to look at other casing materials. And more importantly, I'm going to just put it this way. It opens the communication channel for us to talk about using it in certain applications. Soil conditions in the Phoenix metro area, as we know, are very diverse. And depending on the project that you have, if we can get on board soon enough during the design and catch it early enough, we oftentimes can design in methodologies and techniques that are going to be more cost effective. And we can do that now that we've got casing options. Whereas if we just had steel welded casing, we were really limited on what we could do in certain technologies that we have out there.
Yeah, well stated. Like I said, my principal engineer, he was on board with it. My city engineer was out of town he was on vacation for probably 3 weeks. It felt like 3 months, but I did meet with him briefly and he was on board with it 100%. The only comment he had was, is there a need to reference another section for pipe storage and handling? And I'm sorry I didn't get that to you before the meeting, Arvid. I kind of put you on the spot here, but that was his only question. He said he would be willing to move it forward the way it is written, but we might want to look in the future if handling and storage becomes an issue on addressing that.
Well, yeah. So when it comes to handling and storage of casing, keep in mind it's not a pipe, it's just a casing. Although it is a pipe product, it's not going to be treated any differently than any casing would be handled. Because again, we're going to get it to the job site, we're going to install the casing through the earth, but then the pipe that goes through the casing is no different than any other pipe. So the handling and the storage of the product line would be what it's always been, and the casing will continue to be what it has been, which is we'll use it as a casing. It's used specifically as a casing, not as the product line.
Got it. Understood. Let's open it up to discussion with the committee and questions from the committee. Does anybody have anything they would like to add to this case?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, this is Peter Conderas. Just as kind of a reference, I think I've provided this before. The Salt River Project has used this product since well into the early 1990s.
Yes.
It's below city streets in numerous locations as a carrier pipe for electric conduits. And to my knowledge, there's never been an issue over the time with any kind of degradation or impact of the above facilities, anything above those. So it has been in the ground in the Phoenix area for quite some time.
So it's
Yep.
a pretty inert product then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Peter. All right, this one's up for possible action. Before we move into that, is there any other questions or comments from the committee related to this case? All right, hearing none, I'd like to add that Glendale would be willing to move forward with this, but being the chair, I can't motion on a case, but I will entertain a motion for case 24-10 from the committee members.
I'll motion it.
Was that Jim?
Yes.
Thank you, Jim. Can I get a second motion to move this case into vote?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Dan. All right, with two motions, we'll go ahead and move into a roll call vote.
Thank you. I think my mic's on today or this time. Enoch. Yes. Avondale.
Yes.
Buckeye.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
El Mirage.
Yes.
Lawrence. Gilbert.
Yes.
Glendale.
Yes.
Goodyear. Not present. Maricopa County.
Yes.
Mesa.
Yes.
Peoria.
Yes.
Phoenix.
Yes.
Scottsdale.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yes.
Tempe. Youngtown.
Yes.
Is there anyone I missed? Okay, it looks like the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, committee members. I appreciate
Thank you.
I appreciate your help with this, everybody. Arvid, thanks for bringing this case forward. I think it's overdue.
Yes, thank you. We'll be presenting a new one with some trenchless ideas going into 25, and we'll be putting some PowerPoints together for the committee so we can start to look at some new options to help, again, the industry as it continues to grow and get a handle on it before it gets too far in the ground.
Thank you, Arvid.
My
All right,
pleasure.
to agenda item number 11. This is case 24-11, revised section 621, 760, and 771 related to the corrugated metal pipe. This one is brought to us by our very own Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the package includes this this time highlighted in yellow is the changes that have been done since the last time the draft changes were sent out. They include the clarification and addition of resistivity and pH table related to the type of coating that the CMP material has. Also under section 621.3.2, pipe deflection, we clarified that the maximum deflection is a 7.5% of the nominal inside diameter. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for that comment.
It's not a joint deflection.
It's
but
not a joint deflection, but it's the deflection of the actual
It's a squished pipe.
squish pipe, yes.
That's English.
Let's put that in there, right? And also in case 760, we had received a comment to at least specify a minimum thickness of or gauge thickness that saves as a floor for this pipe products. I think we've been working with Contec as the main supplier that's providing input on some of this stuff. And there's a lot of variables that go into the design of the thickness. For a CMP pipe, ultimately, this product should be designed. But I think in consensus, sort of as a minimum floor, a 16 gauge should work for most applications, or not for most applications, right? But as a baseline in the lack of any other information.
But I'm hearing the thickness would be the same all the way around. We wouldn't just have a thickened floor, or is that what you're?
No, it's the thickness of the gauge of the overall pipe material.
Okay.
Yes. And There was also a suggestion that came from Contech as to the band coupling, the coupling bands that are used for this product. They had some concerns because they see out there sometimes contractors use an 8-inch band. They really recommend the use of a 12-inch band, so that's been updated on this spec.
Good. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a 12-inch band, especially when you start getting in those larger.
Yes,
CMPs.
mainly that's where it came from, because this is ultimately going to be used also in conjunction with the right-of-way detention tanks. So those are all the updates. So if anybody has any other comments or want to take it to their groups and provide any feedback, especially those that are using CMP pipe, even if it's not as a storm drain or pipe culvert material, but at least in detention, any information that is available out there that we should incorporate into the specs is welcomed.
Does Maricopa County proper still use CMP in the right of way? Does anybody
I'm
know?
not sure.
Let me get my microphone on here. We recently updated our pipe standards, and we don't allow it underneath the roadway prism, but it potentially could be used outside the roadway prism.
Possibly like a driveway entrance or something of that nature?
Probably no, like completely outside of the road, probably not even a driveway anymore.
Okay, so completely outside of the right of way.
Outside the roadway prism entirely, or anything associated with that.
Okay, thank you. So this item is obviously open for discussion. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this case in particular? I'd suggest everybody take the time, look at the revisions. Jose, do you foresee this case carrying over into next year, or are we going to push to try to get this up for action at the next vote, at the next meeting? You think it's close?
I'm not sure that is that close because of the level of comments that we've gotten. I don't prefer it, but if it carries over, I completely understand, because I don't think we've gotten a lot of input on it yet. So definitely like to get some agency's eyes on this.
Yeah, it is a relatively new case.
Yeah, it did came in mid-year. So.
Well, if we're going to put it up for action, it needs to be brought up at this meeting. If we're going to put it up for action next meeting.
Probably not at this case, because the committee hasn't seen a revised versions for a while, so this is the first time they've seen a revised version.
Okay.
So
this is looking like a carryover case. All right, any other comments or questions from the committee regarding case 24-11? All right, we're going to move into agenda item number 12, case 24-12. This is to rewrite section 626, the corrosion protective coating of sanitary sewer manholes and access structures. This one is brought to us also by the city of Phoenix. Matthew Bryan. Matthew, can you give us any updates on this case?
We don't have any updates at this time, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Matthew, did you receive Glendale's comments to this case?
We did, and they're currently reviewing those now. So hopefully by the working group or so, we can have all those cleared up and ready to be to move forward.
There was the initial first round of comments that you see on your screen right now, but then there was actually a more in-depth look at the section as a whole. And I had put together a complete comment list of, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm hoping you receive the list of 12 complete comments for your team to review.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, with the Glendale letterhead, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So I'll open this one up for discussion to the committee. Does anybody have any comments or questions they would like to bring up this time, Ryan?
Yeah, Chair Matthew, just a comment from my water resources group that reviewed this. They noted that the coatings can either be sprayed or troweled, and they requested that coatings should be applied by trowel where a sewer pipe intersects the manhole. and suggested that the coating shall extend into the sewer pipe a minimum of 2 inches. If that's something we could add into the specification.
We would have to look at that, Ryan, because we might want to check with the manufacturers, the product. I don't know if this material will stick to VCP or SDR plastic pipe. In my experience in the past, it gets pulled off with the jetter nozzle, but definitely thank you for those comments. And Matthew, hopefully you can take note of those comments and get them addressed from your end.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee members on this case or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Go to case 24-12, proposed revisions to section 620. This is the cast in place pipe. This one's also brought to us by Chandler, by the city of Chandler, Warren White, but Warren's out. Rachel, are you covering for Warren on this one as well?
Sorry, I was muted. I thought we were covering section 620, the next agenda item. Can you go back to the agenda for one? Oh, okay. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong. Yes, the only edit to this one is in 620.3.1, the excavation section, just specifying that expansive clays need to be over excavated to a depth of 8 to 12 inches, followed by filling and compacting.
That's the only revision or change to 24-13, case 24-13.
Correct, since the last meeting.
Okay. We'll open this one up for discussion and questions from the committee. All right, not hearing any, it tells me that we're pretty close. Rachel, would you feel comfortable moving this up for possible action at September's meeting?
Yes.
All right, I think that is the right choice. Gordon, can you put this up for possible action, please?
I will.
All right, moving on. Items proposed to be heard for the outside right-of-way cases under consideration. This is going to be agenda item number 14, outside right-of-way 23-6. This is the new vegetated or rock bioswales. This one's, I think Peter's been handling this one with the outside right-of-way group. Peter, you want to give us any updates on this one?
Mr. Chair, I don't think we've had any updates on this one. I think we had all the changes in the last revision. I don't believe, I don't know of any comments we've received.
Yeah, that's what I recall. That's why we put it up for action, because there wasn't any. You haven't received any comments since?
No, I have not. Gordon, did you get anything from City of Tempe?
No changes.
So I think we captured them all last time in our discussion. And as you see them there, you see I think what we did last time was provide the edited version of the prior comments we received and how they were addressed. So I don't think there's anything left on this one unless somebody's got any new comments.
You want to give a brief overview on what the details are for?
So in general, the detail is identifying the concept of vegetated rock bioswales is providing the parameters associated for going ahead and building it. It doesn't give it a specific design, but it gives call it the bumpers for doing it, and that would be incorporated within a specific design plan. Part of that also has the optional rock check dam, and going along with that, there's 2 specifications that are tied to that. One is the rock dam specification, and the other, of course, is the bioswale itself. It provides the material requirements associated with those. So the intent was to finally get something going in terms of a drainage control system or a drainage system for the low impact. This is probably this is really the first of the major ones that's going to go in since the landscaping has been put together. Don't have anything new to discuss on it. I think that's pretty much what we have.
Peter, I think that was a great update on just what the case is about in general. I think at this point, we'll open up for discussion to the committee or comments from the committee. Hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to look at it and they understand the desire to have this detail and why we're looking at putting it in the outside of right-of-way book. So not hearing any feedback from the committee, this is up for possible action or for action today. I'll entertain a motion to vote for outside right-of-way case 23-06. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'm not sure if I can do that. City of Tempe had been sponsoring it, so I was hoping they were going to do that.
I believe anyone on the committee can make motions in seconds, but the only agency members are allowed to vote. That's the difference.
Okay, well, I'll motion. If the motion's up, I'll second it. If not, I'll motion.
Usually we don't run into that predicament because we have agencies motioning, but if that's the bylaws, Gordon, thank you. And Peter, we'll take your first motion. I appreciate that. Can I get from the committee, can I get a second motion to approve?
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, having two motions, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. This is the outside right-of-way case 2306. ADOT?
Yes.
Avondale?
Yes.
Buckeye?
Yes.
Chandler?
Yes.
El Mirage?
Yes.
Lawrence? Gilbert?
Yes.
Glendale?
Yes.
Goodyear?
Yes.
Maricopa County?
Yes.
Mesa?
Yes.
Peoria?
Yes.
Phoenix?
Yes.
Scottsdale?
Yes.
Surprise?
Yes.
Tempe? Youngtown?
Yes.
Looks like the motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, committee members. All right, we're going to roll to.
Many thanks everybody for that one. This one we've been hammering over for a couple of years, so we're really happy to get that one through.
Yeah, you want to say a eulogy on it?
Yeah, it's an introduction more than a eulogy at this point. It's the first one to kick off what the list of things we've got to get done.
Good job, Peter.
Thank you.
At first, I thought it would be more like herding cats, but you got it down now. So.
Getting there.
Yeah, to Jim's point, great job on that, Peter. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 15. This is the outside right-of-way 23-10 for the thermoform PVC drain basins. This one, I think Warren was handling. This was a collaborative effort, but I believe Warren was handling most of it. Who's going to provide any updates on this particular case? Is that going to be you, Rachel?
Yeah, I can. The only update we've had since the previous meeting is in section 650.3 installation, just specifying that the optional riser section for field modification at time of installation is available per the manufacturer's requirements. And then the detail that accompanies that is updated as well to include that language.
And I'm also here. This is Nick Burton. I oversee the case in the outside right-of-way committee.
Yes. Yes, Nick, thank you. You were at the last meeting when it was brought up for the adjustment.
Yep.
Piece. Great. Yeah, I recall that being the only note that our only comment, at least that I recall at the last meeting. There may have been another, but that's the one I recall.
That is all that I was asked to provide an update for this month. So it was my understanding too that that was the only thing that needed to be revised.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Nick. This one's open for discussion. We'll open it up to the committee for discussion or questions. Committee members, this one's going to be, this one's up for possible action as well. I know I put I burn a lot of mental calories reading it. I think it's perfect for using outside of the right of way. We use this same type of application for a couple police station parking lots that we had expanded, and it worked great. It was a low cost method. It served the purpose and it's functioning as designed. All right, hearing no feedback from the committee, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Is that Rachel?
Uh-huh.
Thank you. All right, we have one motion. I'll entertain a second motion to approve. I would, but I'm chair and I can't.
This is Robin Surprise. I second.
Thank you, Rob. All right, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Okay, outside right away case 2310. ADOT.
Yes.
Avondale.
Yes.
Buckeye.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
El Mirage.
Yes.
Lawrence not present. Gilbert.
Yes.
Glendale.
Yes.
Goodyear. Goodyear. Maricopa County.
Yes.
Mesa.
Yes.
Peoria.
Yes.
Phoenix.
Yes.
Scottsdale.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yes.
Tempe. Not present. Youngtown.
Yes.
Is Gilbert, or excuse me, is Goodyear still there? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, committee members. Looks like Peter has some things to put in the book. Let's go ahead and move on to new outside of right-of-way cases for 2024. It's agenda item number 14, outside right-of-way case 24-A, retention basin spillway details 510-1 and 2, move detail 227. Peter, this one is from you. You're sponsoring this one. I noticed, I wanted to note that the updates for this one did not make it into the packet. So if you could please give us a summary on the updates.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, didn't get in the packet, but what we did was from the comments received, we had extensive comments, very good ones from City of Phoenix. And so we adopted we adapted those to the drawings. There's a red line version that shows it on both of them. And it's probably the easiest way to see these updates. So there's a description one. So you can see the red line version. This is the curb cut version. Some of the major aspects are making sure to identify the depressed section that in this case would be below the curb, and then also as it enters into the sedimentation basin or sediment trap, and make sure there's that it's identified what the transition looks like. In addition to that transition, excuse me, it was noted that there was not really a sufficient transition from the spillway itself to the sediment trap. So now you'll see that there is a transition slope and a pinching off of it down. So there's a smoother, again, transition into it. That's now included. It was pointed out that likely this would not be installed. You wouldn't need to install this in the sediment trap as a separate installation. It'd probably be done at the same time. So there was no need for putting in a drill and epoxy and rebar. In fact, it was pointed out that MAG specifications likely would require some other kind of jointing there. This leaves it open now for being able to do that. So we took those epoxy pieces out. A large part was done in some of the reinforcement. It was pointed out that we did not have the thicknesses and widths of some of these were not sufficient to provide adequate clearance to meet clearance either to air or clearance to ground, 3-inch to ground or 1.5 inches to air to meet most concrete codes. So the widths on these were changed on a number of those to increase that. This one not as much as the other, where we had to go to a 6-inch width to make sure we had sufficient clearances. The reinforcement then was shown and detailed out a little bit differently to show where it was at, so it wasn't assumed that there was going to be reinforcement continuously, as some of that vertical reinforcements just at the corners, the horizontal reinforcement top and bottom, and then centering of the welded wire fabric, and again centering of everything. So a lot of time was spent on that. A little bit of a detail on the undisturbed or compacted fill below was kind of a roaming arrow. It's been changed on that. And then one detail, the width on the other side of the top side of the curb section, identifying what that dimension is. So a lot of this was cleaning up a lot of dimensioning. Gordon, if we move to the second one, we can see some these similarities associated with it. This one being the one with the scupper, again, trying to match in with the scupper on one end and the sediment trap on the other end. The numbers now also with sediment trap are now being shown. So similar comments on that, where the detailing of the reinforcement is now cleaned up. The width was increased at the top to match the width of the scupper opening. Transition here is a little different because the sediment trap, it would go straight and it would just taper right down to it. And again, the drop on one end and the sill on the other side matching that up. So a lot of cleanup was done on this one. And then again, the numbers associated with it.
And then as part of this case, it's recommended to move 257 into the outside of right-of-way book, correct?
Yes. And then we've got the final one shows that, which is moving it, giving an outside right-of-way number, moving the sediment trap on over. It was pointed out that we probably should not try to say that that the spillway for the sediment trap must be the MAG standard, which is the new one, or the outside right-of-way 510. So it was recommended, let's leave that option open because there could be other spillways. For example, the use of a riprap spillway, which we haven't got to a detail yet on that. That'll be next year. So as to not disallow that option to be there, we put in spillway per civil plans or outside right-of-way detail.
Thank you, Peter. So this case, we'll go ahead and open up for discussion and comments from the committee. Peter, do you think this case will be ready for action at the next meeting?
I think we're there. I think we got the majority of the comments this last go around. So I'd request that we have this for a potential vote. If we get something in between now and then, we could always modify that. But I would request everybody please look at those changes as they're shown there as red lines, just to make it easier. If I don't get something toward the next meeting, I'll go ahead and finalize this, and let's see if we can get this one in.
Great. We'll put, Gordon, if we could put it up for possible action at the next September meeting, that would be great. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 17. This is outside right-of-way 24-B, move detail 346, fire line detector vault from the MAG specification to the outside of to the MAG outside of right-of-way book. This one here, we went ahead and the only real changes to this one since the last meeting was we removed on let me see which one you're looking at that one there. We changed the Badger Meter Company between plan view on the left side of the page in the center. just below where it says plan view, below cover, it said Badger Meter Company and Readomatic Register or approved equal, and we'd revise that to agency approved remote metering register. That way, if you're not using a Badger, you can use whatever your heart desires. This one here, Gordon was kind enough to put it into a clean version for all of us to look at. This one, again, the motivation just for the whole committee, motivation for this detail change was to eliminate the individual manufacturer names that were called out. A lot of them were outdated. They were bought out by other agencies, so on and so forth. Their model numbers, catalog numbers may have changed. So now we're given more flexibility throughout the detail by just leaving it up to the agency. This one here, we'll go ahead and open it up for comments and discussion from the committee.
One thing I noticed based on Jose's earlier comment is the new Note 5 probably also should be manufacturer.
Manufacturer.
Yeah, because it's very similar to the other note from the previous case.
That is correct. Okay, we'll make that minor revision, adding the R to manufacturer. And I suggest everybody take a look at it, and I'd like to move it. I'm going to move it to action for the next meeting for possible action. Gordon, if you could put it on the agenda for possible action. All right, we're going to move into agenda item number 18, outside of right-of-way case 24-C. This is the corrugated metal pipe underground storage retention tanks. This one is also brought to us by City of Phoenix, Jose Rodriguez. Jose, do you want to provide any updates on this case?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a pretty healthy discussion last time on the installation of this large CMP structures, for lack of a better term. I think the biggest take that came out of that is the suggestion to allow for the use of installing this using pea gravel. And so the detail now reflects that. It still calls out the potential installation using granular backfill, but it does present the option to use filter fabric and stone and clear stone to install it. I did ask our own City of Phoenix planning inspectors, and they did say that that's a pretty common method of installation too. So, so it looks like it's really coming down to most of these are being installed either with slurry or stone. So now this detail allows for all of them: granular backfill, CLSM, or flowable fill. So
with the controlled low strength material, would there still be a need for the filter fabric?
No, the filter fabric is to prevent the migration of fines into the.
But if you use a slurry, would there still be a need for the filter fabric?
No, but it's always optional. It's called out as optional. It's an optional filter fabric for open graded rock fill.
Gotcha. All right. Those are the only updates, really.
Those are the major updates overall. There was a lot of cleanup, and there used to be a table that show the different backfill and compaction requirements. Now there's that table was a lot simplified, and it's on the upper left corner, so it just points out to the right section.
Compaction not applicable. Okay. I will open this case up for discussion and comments from the committee. Come on, Paul. I'm sure you have a comment on it.
So where did the CLSM, where would that go, in the lower half below the spring line?
Is it restricted to spring line and below, or is it optional to put all the way up over the pipe?
No, I'm just trying to make sure there's no note that conflicts it, but it's allowed all the way for the installation, all the way to the top of pipe. So
Might want to add some note about it needs to be, anchored down so it doesn't flow.
That is one of the biggest challenges with using Control low strength material, any kind of slurry with a lightweight pipe, or really any pipe for that matter.
We want
big boat.
the method of holding down the pipe. I'm not sure.
No, it should just be restrained, or, well, not restrained, that might not be the word.
Anchor down.
Anchored, yeah, that's probably a better description of what needs to happen.
And the cement, that doesn't react with the pipe material, the corrugated metal?
I can follow on that because I was looking for the question myself, Jim. You know, even the national standards recognize the use of CLSM as a backfill material, and they were really mute about any reaction with that. But I guess
I'll vote on something when it comes up.
I just wanted to ask you real quick. Was you trying to help us? Yes. That's kind of the way it took.
Any other comments from committee members?
This is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. Are we addressing anywhere on here minimum
You guys have
cover
an
or minimum
update,
clearance
so-
to pavement?
That you're deserving of anything.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? There was some kind of muffled.
Yeah, if you could repeat that question, we had to mute somebody. We had some background noise going on. Go ahead and repeat the question, please.
Yeah, my question is, are we addressing cover or minimum clearance to pavement sections anywhere in here?
Yes.
Or is that more of a design engineer
No,
function?
Let me.
I think it's at the top of this sheet.
Yeah, we had put up a note, but let me
Too many notes, huh?
Too many notes. Yes.
Oh, I remember we had cover in a table, and then I thought you're right, we addressed it in a note instead.
Yeah, but no, let me follow up because we had some discussion related to making sure there's final backfill with pavement on it. So
I see something in installation note 2 that seems to be kind of related to that, but I'm not sure how that actually correlates to the detail or depth.
yeah, no, let me work on clarifying that because there is the note 1, but that got re-edited for a pipe larger than 96 inches. So
okay, thank you.
And I think in the section we talked about it too, a little bit.
yeah, we can make that match.
Yeah, let's put that on the agenda. Make sure that gets taken care of in our meeting later this month to make sure that gets covered. I'm very sure we had that, but now I can't remember where it was taken care of, either here or in the section.
Yeah, Simon, and reshuffling the detail around to make it a little bit cleaner. We might have.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Josh, thank you for that question and
Great
that
point.
comment. Any other comments or questions from the committee on this case? Jose, when do you anticipate this going up? This is going to be a carryover?
I actually would like to just leave it as a possible action. If we can clean up and get back to the committee on some of the questions they brought up on the next meeting.
Okay.
I think there is a concern that this CMP specs need to be done simultaneously.
Oh.
So if so, if you want to vote on this one, I think we also need to vote on the other case.
Okay, we can talk about it on the, because then this will be published, but not the corresponding
Right,
CMP.
right, and it's going to be referenced.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
Over until we have a note that it's waiting on concurrence for the other case.
That could be an option.
I'm not sure how much it references those
Okay.
specifications.
No, just through the normal business on the meetings, just carry a note that it's waiting for concurrence. I don't know, or we just, yeah, never mind, we'll probably.
Yeah, we'll
probably
need to
look
talk
at it.
about it at the working
Right.
group, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about the working group also. You know, if case 11 doesn't go through, it could be problematic.
Okay. Yeah, and that's probably a carryover too. All right. All right, let's move into agenda item number 19. This is outside of right of way. Case 24-D. This is to add new detail outside of right of way 524 and section OROW 665 infiltration trenches. This one is also brought by the outside of right of way working group. Peter, you want to give any updates on this case, please?
Yeah, so this was discussed in the in the meeting in July, and we had some comments and discussions in this last the July committee meeting. And Gordon, you know, I think you can pull up the draft detail. So this was, I think the comments were primarily related to the depth versus diameter, identifying this. It was brought up by City of Chandler, that we have to be careful, or at least warn everyone that if the depth is greater than any of the width or length, then it could likely be defined as a well by the Arizona Code. So we added that note at the bottom. Right now, we haven't got any other comments yet, but we want to make sure that one got covered. So note 8 was discussed and added in our last meeting. Otherwise, we had not received any other comments. The section that goes with this, I think we're really waiting on more comments on this, unless there's some today. I don't see us being able to vote on this one right away. I think we really are going to have to wait. Look, I don't think we made any changes in the section, did we, for our last meeting?
What I'm hearing, Peter, is you're okay with this one. You're good with this one.
Yeah, we don't have comments yet, and I don't want to push this one through too fast, especially since we talked about potentially including a test method. Is that going to be appropriate? I think really we should make sure we get this sufficiently commented on before we move forward.
Great, thank you. With those updates, I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion to the committee.
Yeah, we got a development that's using these because it's the water table's too shallow, and so I'm gonna get back and see what on their details, see what they have in common. But I do believe these need to be and we have to come up with some kind of testing mechanism, Peter. So.
Yeah, and in the standard, we did put some language on that. But like I said, I think this needs to be vetted a little bit more, especially the section where we talk about testing. We talk about percolation testing and methods. And I would like to make sure we do get a good level of comment. This is a bit of a deviation where we talk about this kind of testing. It's almost it really does kind of classify the design component of it. Do we want to do that? Also, we probably want to be looking at potential requirements for engineering inspection. And that I think we just need more comments on this one. I would feel
agree with you,
uncomfortable rushing it.
I'd agree with you. I didn't know how aggressive your schedule was with this. That's why I was prying.
I'm glad we got it in so we can get it going, but it was important for us to get it in for this year for discussion so we can move forward with some of the other cases. Now we have something to reference to. So I think that was probably the more critical thing. The other cases had to move forward, but they didn't necessarily need to have this done because they're not going to be passed this year anyway. But we needed to see what the language was to make sure that the others could move forward. So I don't see it as critical this one would be passed this year.
Thank you, Peter. Any other comments or questions from the committee members on this case? All right, hearing none, we're going to move into agenda item number 20. This is outside of right-of-way 24-E. Transfer specifications and details to outside of right-of-way document. This one also, Peter, don't go away. This one also is brought to us by the outside of right-of-way working group. Peter, you want to go ahead and give us any updates on this?
Yeah, so from the comments we received when we introduced this last meeting, changes have been added or made to this. So items that were taken out upon request of the committee included the precast safety curbs, the chain link fence, bollards. So the details and standard sections were removed from it. But what was added was the pervious concrete elements in the section. We had the detail, but not the section. So 303 and 323 being moved over. Also, we're providing recommended section numbers in the outside right of way, how they would be put together. So this is just a bit of an update. I kind of consider this just like the bloopers kind of case. It gives us at least an opportunity to, at the end of each year, see if anything needs to be moved around or modified.
Like miscellaneous corrections almost.
Yeah, it really is that. So we'd hope to vote on it next meeting. One thing I probably should do is look through each of these just to make sure there's no cross-reference issue. We have to change a number here or there. I don't think there's going to be, but it would behoove me to do that. But I would like to have this voted on the next meeting.
Peter, or maybe this is a question for Gordon. These revisions, are these some of the revisions that didn't make it into the packet for this case for 24-E?
Yeah, it was mostly just the listing, and Gordon was good enough to go through and actually see what that would look like. He did some mock-ups of what that would look like in the outside right of way. The listing did not get in there. These were for our discussion in the last one, so no, I didn't get that in the packet.
So, yeah, based on some of the outside right of way numbers were updated. So based on those, I made some changes to these notes that were in the packet. So in the packet, I think it might have said 401 instead of 405. So there's a few changes. But other than the numbers, I think this number changed. This was just to show the existing MEG specifications and to note that basically all we would need to do is change the numbers, the footers, and any references. Like when it's referencing section 729, for example, it would need to be MEG, and if it's referencing something within the outside right-of-way document, you would note that new number.
You would note it as RO.
Yeah, ROW.
Okay.
So for example, I don't recall, but if this references, for example, the pervious concrete base spec, and we're changing that to from 303.
Yeah. What we'll do if the list is sufficient, if everybody's satisfied with the listing, then for next meeting for voting, we'll go ahead and have all those details identified where it's OROW or MAG.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, we kind of lost a little bit of audio on you. I caught the end of that. I don't know if a button was pushed, but I lost your volume went way down.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. So
okay,
let's go ahead and move this for possible action at the next meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and we'll go ahead and take all of those and clean them up so you see what is outside right away, what is a MAG reference within that, and have that ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Gordon, if you could put that on there, I'd appreciate it for possible action. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into items proposed to be heard. Other items. This is agenda item number 21, working group reports. We'll go ahead and start off with the water sewer working group. Jim, do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So we met on July 23rd. I'm not going to rehash it. A lot of the cases that we discussed today were covered. We've kind of finished up the loose ends on Warren's case for the tracer wire. I really want to thank him, and everybody else who helped out on that. That was a big lot of work. So really appreciate it. We got that voted on today. So, yeah, I kind of went through some of these other cases we discussed today. Arvid's case with that, just some loose ends. We had some discussion on the coatings. We talked about with the manholes. What else? That was about it on the cases. And then we did have some discussion on some other pending cases for next year. We had some discussion on the mandrels, sewer mandrel testing.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a guy in the industry working with Kent, and his name's Kent Carlson. He's actually on the ASTM committee, and it's a slow process, but they're going through that. So I don't know. I'd still like to. I don't know where they're going to be at next year, but I still like to vote on some kind of a standard for these mandrels next year. But the big discussion on that is the diameter. There's industry has two references. There's a mean diameter and a base diameter, and so I think one or two agencies locally use the one which is more restrictive, but the more common one, I think it's the mean one. I get them mixed up, but it's a little bit smaller diameter, so obviously it's going to pass more. But we just got to come to some conclusion and go with it. So we'll probably kind of follow that off season here. So I do want to do something next year on that for sure. And then I had to cut out early, so I don't know, Gordon. I think you guys are still talking about some discussion on meter boxes. So
there was a little discussion about using magnets on the meter boxes that aren't metal in order to find them easier.
Yeah.
And then also I got a note from Warren White that he's looking at possibly picking up the PEX-A pipe specifications next year and maybe introducing that.
So it doesn't sound like your working group's going anywhere.
No, there's lots to do. I mean, there's lots of changes. A lot of it's driven by new materials, like this PEX. There's a growing, there's a growing interest in using some other material other than copper.
Yeah, and keeping up with it, right?
Right. So, that's it. We're just trying to keep up with that. So yeah, it's exciting. Anyways, mainly, like I said, new materials. Manhole stuff is always, there's always discussion on the manholes too. So just looking forward to next year, but we will have two more meetings. We'll have one more in August here, August 20th, on virtual online. And then we'll probably have one more in September. We'll just kind of see how the next one goes. Just kind of get a game plan for next year. So that was it.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the update. We'll go ahead and move into the asphalt working group. Greg, you want to give us a report on the asphalt working group, please?
Sure. Our meeting was on July 18th at the ARPA offices. We discussed that we just kind of went through the two cases we talked about already today. 2408, just to see if there was any comments, which obviously there wasn't, and 2409 was the culmination of that, was in today's packet. Beyond that, John Shear from the county was there with us this month, so we actually got to talk about, he wanted to talk a little bit about the acceptance criteria for slurry sands again in production, as opposed to just design.
Didn't we just get through that?
We just did it last year, so I think we worked our way through that one, and then talked through the different methods between the Arizona method and the ASTM methods for proctors on, anyway. I think all that got resolved. Good conversation, pretty lengthy conversation. And then we also talked about recycled materials again. In this particular case, I think I mentioned it last month. We called it fuzzy base, but it's probably not the right nomenclature we should actually give it, but it's recycled concrete that has fiber in it. So kind of what those products look like.
Different variations of fiber, monofilament
potentially, and then how does it look like? So if you crush it to meet say an AB gradation, right? And then what happens if you get a piece of fiber that links together when it's going through the sieve? So those conversations are going to continue to be happening, especially around recycled materials, not just in recycled concrete, but I would imagine that's going to be the bulk of some of the things that we're going to be looking at here, at least going into next year. Other than that, that was about
When
it.
the suppliers pull out concrete, just out of sake of conversation, when they pull out the concrete, do they take it to a certain pile if it's has fiber mesh in it?
So in this particular case, this one was from some tilt buildings that was a certain panel, I think that panel or multiple panels, I think that were going to go to waste. So instead of, I mean, what do you do with it then at that point? So they crushed it back up and now it's perfectly suitable and probably make a great base material, just trying to figure out where it fits
And it was
what
a lot
what
of
it looks like.
material.
And it's a fair amount. And Jeff might be able to comment some more on it.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Hearn, we just want to make sure that there's that will cause no issues with base materials. We don't anticipate it will.
Right.
They're inert products. They're not going to have any reactions with material. We're using them in concrete. We should be able to use them in base materials. We just want to make sure that we kind of walk our way through. Does it meet all the table requirements? Does it meet all the performance requirements? Does it work in place? Is there a problem with using the material? We don't think there will. We just want to work through all those things.
Great.
But sure, people, when they see a little bit of fiber in their base coming in at a dump truck that they don't,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, the ears go up and
Yeah.
red
What
flags.
is this? What is the problem with it?
Other than that, our next meeting is next Thursday, August 15th at the ARPA offices at noon. It'll be a hybrid meeting again and we always have Mexican food. It's fantastic.
You always have lunch.
La Canasta is always there and it's
La
not
Canasta is
terrible.
great. All right, yeah, if you're gonna have a meeting at lunchtime at noon, you better provide lunch. All right, we'll move on to outside of right-of-way working group. Peter, you want to give us the report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we talked about the majority of the cases that we went through. We've already gone through pretty much what we talked about there. I'd like to look a little bit more at the new cases. I think that's what we're going to be talking about. We had our meeting on July 18th, went through those, but I think we had, so it's shown here as 2024, but these are some of the ones we're going to be talking about for 2025. And that's going to be, I think, a large part of our focus. We'll do some cleanup on these, but I think primarily we're going to be looking at additional options for detention tanks, starting to broaden those out to again, as products change, products are being added to the market, making sure that those can be incorporated within these. The stormwater harvesting basin is the next one after the rock and vegetated bioswales and the infiltration trenches. It's the one now that can be started on that. HC supplements, I think we're there, but I think we also are going to be talking again more about the dry wells. We postponed those for a while. I think 2025 is the year for that. The other ones we talked about prior, which would be related to offsite valves, things like that have been in MAG, that are in city standards, and start getting those reorganized again. And then look at the LID development book and see if we can get some volunteers to start moving forward in some of the other optional methods for LID systems. Our next meeting will be on the 15th of August. It's probably not going to be our last one for the year. I think we're going to try to wrap up this year's work in the August meeting, make sure we've covered everything that needs to move forward. And then in the September meeting, which isn't shown there yet, September, October, I think we're going to be dedicating solely toward the 2025 work to try to jump on that and make sure we've got those covered, people moving forward with it. So when you hit the ground, we can hit the ground running in January.
And Peter, you said your next meeting is August 15th. What time is that meeting?
11 o'clock. It'll be virtual.
All right. Did
we'll do that.
We had an individual from Glendale that wanted to get looped into the outside of right-of-way working group. Were you guys able to make a connection?
Then go through, let's see, Gordon, could you send a note to Ann if we get,
Yes.
I assume as soon as we get something, we could forward it to Ann.
Yes, I did. And I think she has added him to the mailing list.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Move into agenda item number 22. This is potential cases for 2025. This is not including any working group cases. Now, it's too late to add any cases this year, but do we have any potential cases for next year? I'm sure January we'll get hit with a few. All right, hearing none, we're going to move into agenda item number 23, some ag staff report. Gordon, would you like to give us a report? Do you have anything to report?
Nothing too pressing, no.
Thank you, Gordon. Agenda item number 24, general discussion. We'll just open it up for general discussion for construction practices and technologies. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring up, feel free.
Hey, I would just like to say that I'm working vehemently to bring the younger generation to the table. And they're in Vegas at a convention.
I'm
this
sorry,
week.
sir, state your name before speaking.
This is Paul Nebeker.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I just like to say, I think one of the goals is to kind of get younger people into this committee that are doing the work to help assist with what we're doing. And I'm working vehemently to do that. The boys are in Vegas at a water convention this week, but we will come to the last meeting in person. So thank you.
Great. We're looking forward to having you, Paul. Thank you for bringing, looking for that young talent too. We definitely need it. We're not getting any younger around here.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we have any other comments on this, on general discussion? All right. Hearing none, we're going to move into agenda item number 25, requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the members to add an item to a future agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into agenda item number 26, comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from committee members? All right, hearing none. The next meeting for the Standard Specification and Detail Committee is scheduled for September 4th at 1:30 p.m. I look forward to all of you all being there with, and thank you guys, thank everybody for their participation today, especially those that are really active with these cases. We all appreciate it, and you that are here at the table and that joined us on Zoom. With no further business for today, we're going to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Nice. All right.